Good morning, diamonds of the earth. Welcome back to my channel. The lighting is better over here, I think. I'll do it this way. In today's video, I kind of just want to talk to you guys about what's been going on. I watched the Victoria Secret Model Runway Show. This is my first time actually ever really watching. I've never watched it before, so seeing it this time was pretty interesting. I also had some things that I wanted to try and work on. One thing specifically being, I want to write a play. And this year for NaNoWriMo, I wasn't really intending to do NaNoWriMo this year, honestly, but thinking over the ideas I do want to fulfill for this year, like this later end of the year, I was thinking, why not do like little play idea? So yeah, that's that's the thoughts for now. I'm gonna go sit down in a second, but I'll run you through the details in a little bit. This time of year, right? We are obviously going into the winter months. It's a lot colder now, except for today, honestly, which is surprising. Yesterday was really warm too, and today's extra warm. I think it's a little bit cooler compared to yesterday, but today is also like pretty warm, which is really weird for this time of year. But you know, it's still great either way. So, yeah, like I was telling you guys before, I watched the Victoria's Secret Model Runway that happened, I want to say a few weeks ago, or maybe last week. Honestly, my sense of timing, guys, it's so bad. But I watched it and it was interesting. I honestly thought it was going to be a little bit longer. Maybe that's too high the expectation, I guess. It felt like they kind of like sped through things, and then afterwards they just ended the show, obviously with Tyra Banks walking down the runway and then having like as they're closing, and then everyone kind of like walks off, and like that's the end of the show. And it was only for like an hour, I want to say an hour and a half. I kind of expected it to be at least 2 hours, but maybe that's just me. I've never watched it before, so I don't know how the length of time it is typically for a Victoria's Secret model runway show. I thought it was interesting. I noticed that they had a lot of like additional inclusion in it. I felt like the production quality though for a Victoria's Secret run show was a little low. I don't know if that's just me, but again, I'm going based off of my own understanding of what I thought a Victoria's Secret model show was supposed to be like. But for this one, so specifically with the wings, I found it interesting how you had a lot of people wearing wings, but then there are certain people in that group that weren't wearing wings. And I would say it mainly confuses me only because it's Victoria's Secret, and I would expect it being more of the seasoned supermodels that have walked on that runway for a while. I thought that the wings would at least go to them mainly, or it will go to those like who have been with Victoria. Yeah, pretty much like just the OG supermodels that were walking the runway. I thought that that was mainly for them, unless there was a lot of OGs that were there. You know, I'm not entirely sure. I guess it kind of threw me off because there were moments where there were some people that, a lot of people actually, majority I want to say of at least the Tyla walk, when people were walking when Tyla was performing, a lot of people were wearing wings, and then there was like a few people here and there that weren't. And I found it weird because in my mind, okay, it's either everyone wears wings or you have that distinction of, okay, these are like seasoned models, and because these are seasoned models, they get to wear wings because they've been with the company for how long, or they've been on the runway for how long. They're so highly respected in the supermodel industry, or whatever the case may be. Again, I'm an outsider. I don't really know much about modeling, so I'm just giving my thoughts as an outsider in this situation. But also, regarding the wings, I found it interesting too that the wings looked pretty synthetic. And I don't know if that was me. I kind of expected, except for like the Gigi Hadid wings, where her wings were very like grand. And I think it was supposed to be like that mainly because, like, you know, I found out at least, Victoria's Secret hasn't had a runway in like 6 years. They haven't done their show. I know there was a lot of like controversy with them at one point regarding their, I think he was the CEO at the time until they let him go. I can't remember the names, but I know there was a lot of controversy regarding that situation. And I think that was a part of the reason why they stopped hosting the shows. And I see that they're trying to be more inclusive with the runways now by having plus size models and LGBTQ models as well that are walking the runway, specifically trans models that are walking the runway. So I can see that they were doing some form of like rebranding in a sense, because let's be real, with the Victoria's Secret model, that's a unattainable dream of like the super skinny body, and the the models are like angels. That's the whole like thing of the show. Like they're supposed to be so out of this world that you can only dream of either having the body, or men can only dream of having the girl. So like it's interesting. I like the fact that they're including more people into their runways. But yeah, that's for that. So now, I did say that I had a idea that I wanted to do for a play that I did want to write. I wanted to get some script writing done for it. I kind of have been brainstorming ideas already. This is mainly for a class project, but for the most part, it's something that I was contemplating before. Specifically, it's regarding like issues that we see around the world regarding women, and how those issues, how can we conceptualize those ideas within artistic form. So I chose screenwriting because I felt like I could really utilize and adapt from varying styles of theatrical productions to incorporate in this. I'm considering doing absurdist plays like Samuel Beckett. Yeah, Samuel Beckett is the main one that I draw a lot of inspiration from, because I feel like his interpretation of issues regarding women, I find it interesting because he's absurdist. It's an absurdist play, but I find some of the ways in which he articulates those issues through the absurdist lens is pretty interesting. And then I wanted to do some inspiration from Henry Ibsen's A Doll's House. I think that one's pretty good. I wanted to draw some inspiration from, okay, so I had to look this up because I really could not remember her name. Her name was Marina Abramovic. She did a performance called Rhythm Zero. And essentially what that performance was is that it was really drawing on the human experience through the use of a female body. So what she would do is that she stood, it's an endurance art form. So what she did is that she stood in like the center of like a square, let's say, and she had like utensils at the audience's disposal. Basically like scissors. I don't know if a gun was there, but basically she had a bunch of objects that were there. Like this thing says 72 objects. That's wild. But yeah, she had 72 objects that were there. And she basically stood for 6 hours and allowed the audience to do whatever they wanted to do. Now, it wasn't really like an audience per se, like if you were in a hall or something. It was that she was outside, and people that were passing by, they saw that, okay, this is something that we can actively take part in, and some people chose to. Basically, it was to draw on human nature and the ways in which human nature can like really progress when it comes to like when we're given options to doing things, like what is a natural human instinct to do, especially if we have like so many objects at our disposal. Like what do we naturally tend to do essentially? And or at least that's what my understanding of it was. I just remember it getting really wild because there were people that were like cutting her clothes to the point where she was like completely undressed, and there were people that were like really harming her body, but she wasn't moving, so she just stood there. So there's the harms towards her bodies and all that stuff, and to the point where I think after the 6 hours, or like towards the end of the 6 hours, I think there was a major fight that broke out for at least one of the performances. If she did multiple ones, there was for that one performance, there was a major fight that broke out because someone tried to get rid of her, essentially, for lack of, like, um, but essentially they try to get rid of her, and a lot of people stepped in to stop the person from doing that because they're like, okay, like, it's not that serious, what are you doing? I wanted to draw inspiration from those three because I feel like those three really encapsulate an idea that I want to talk about. And the idea, I will tell you guys, it's talking about a case that happened in Italy, and the term itself of the law was called futina. And futina is pretty much just talking about like two people who run away to elope with one another because they love each other so much. However, that was not a very, in my opinion, accurate way of describing this, because this was mainly referring to people who this would refer to people who love each other so much they end up consummating, and then as a result they would go get an elopement, and then like that's how that would turn out. But this law ended up going with men who would do some form of harassment towards women, you know which one, the R word, towards women, and then afterwards they would, in order for them to bypass the charges that they would get, they would marry those victims of that assault in order for them to get away with it. So I wanted to do something addressing that. I'm gonna do something more with it later on in time. Thank you again, you all, for watching this video. I know it's been a while, I haven't really been posting, but I appreciate you guys still staying here and actually just, watching these still, if you guys are. And if so, if you guys are new here, hi, my name is Risa, and this is the type of content I make. It's kind of like all over the place because, I'm just trying to make videos that I enjoy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, turn on the notifications so you guys can see when this project will begin, because I'm going to hopefully begin it by next week. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, my loves.